In Chapter 5, we're going to cover basic authentication within NetConnect. Before you begin this chapter, you'll need to have an installed NetConnect server. It will need to be licensed, you'll need access to the admin portal, and you'll need to have an application configured. Now in this chapter, we're going to show you how to create a local user database, how to create a local user, how to create a vRealm, how to create a local group, and how to allocate an application to a user, group, and vRealm. There are multiple ways to authenticate a user in NetConnect. We may want to ask some users to authenticate in one way and some users to authenticate in another way. To make this possible, NetConnect uses the concept of vRealms. A vRealm is essentially a chain of authentication stages that are defined by the administrator, which users must satisfy before they're allowed to access their webtop. A basic vRealm, for example, will simply ask a user for their username and password. A more complex vRealm will add the additional stage onto this, and you could utilize third-party 2FA solutions or multi-factor authentication solutions in order to build up the vRealm complexity. Each of these steps are called authentication stages and are defined within the vRealm. For the purposes of this chapter, we're going to create a new vRealm with a single authentication stage based on an internal user database to keep things simple. We'll cover Active Directory integration and multi-factor authentication in Chapter 6. Okay, so now we have a good idea of what a vRealm is. Let's put one together and see how they work. We'll need a user, but first we need to create an internal user data store for him to live in. We'll need to log into our NetConnect instance, open up the admin portal, and navigate to Authentication Settings, Data Stores, Internal Authentication Store. Now, as a side note, while you're here, we'd recommend you take the opportunity to highlight the admin store, click on Get User List, and this is where you can reset the remaining default admin account passwords. Again, that's really quite strongly recommended for security reasons. Once you've done that, we'll continue by clicking on Create New Store. You'll be prompted for a name, so let's call it Training Users, and we'll click Create Store. Simple enough. Now we have somewhere for the standard local users to live. Let's create one. So click on Back to Stores List, highlight the Training User Store, and click on Get User List, and then Add User. We'll call this one Trainee1. We'll give them a password, confirm the password, and then click Add User. Now we only need to make one user for the training, so we'll just click the back option at this stage. Now, when you need to change a local user's password, this is the area you do it in. Simply click on the Edit Properties action for future reference. Okay, so now we have a local user data store with a user. We need to associate it with a vRealm so the user has a way to log into NetConnect. We'll create a new vRealm by heading over here to vRealm Management and simply clicking on Add vRealm. We'll call this vRealm Training and we'll click Submit. Now we want to use the new internal user data store we've just created as the authentication stage for this vRealm, so we'll select the stage type as internal. We'll look at some of the other options we see here in Chapter 6. And the next step is to simply pick the new data store from the authentication store list here and click Submit. Now let's see if that's all worked. We'll open up a different browser to demonstrate the end user experience and see how the changes we make from here on the admin portal affect the trainee user. So let's navigate to our NetConnect instance on Firefox and we'll click on the vRealm list. We can see the new training vRealm is available. Excellent. So let's select that and log in with our trainee user account to confirm the authentication process is working expected, and there we go, we've logged in. Brilliant. There's no applications assigned for the user just yet, so we can't do too much, so let's fix it up for him now. We'll jump back across to our admin portal and we'll demonstrate how to assign an application. Now this can be done in three ways. We can either assign the application to a specific user, we can assign the application to a group of users, or we can assign the app to an entire vRealm. Let's start with the groups option so we can show you quickly how this works. So from the admin portal, we'll select groups on the left hand side and then click local, and we'll go for the add new group action. We need to give the group a name, so let's go with training group and click submit. Now from this page we can add users into the group and specify the applications they'll have access to by virtue of being in this group. It's pretty simple. We just highlight the users in the non-member group that we want to give access to and click the left pointing arrow to move the user across. Then we repeat the process with the application. That takes effect immediately, so if we jump back into Firefox, log in as our trainee user, remembering to change that vRealm, and hey presto, the trainee has a desktop. Fantastic. Now, as I mentioned a moment ago, there are a couple of other ways to give a user access to an application. So let's jump back into our admin portal in Chrome so we can run through those. We'll navigate to Applications, Configuration, and we'll highlight our application. And under the Actions heading, we're going to look at Authorized Users, Authorized Groups, and Authorized Realms. These are the different ways you can give users access to an application. So let's look at Authorized Users first. Now it's worth noting that only users who've logged into NetConnect will be present in this list. So if you don't see a user you'd expect to see here, just make sure they've logged in at least once. As you'd expect, to give an individual user access to the application, you'll just need to simply highlight them from the right-hand side and move them across into the members column, utilizing those arrows once again. Now let's click back to application listing and we'll take a quick look at authorized group option. Now this application is already assigned to the only group we have. We did that when we created the group a moment ago, so there's not too much we can do here. Let's jump back across and we'll go into the authorized realms. Again, no real surprises here. If you want an application to be available to an entire realm, simply move the realm to the members column with the left pointing arrows like so. There we go. So finally, let's run through a few tips and tricks on the vRealm front. You can tweak the behavior and appearance of the realms a little to suit your environment. The first way to do that would be to rearrange the order that the vRealms show up on your login page. So just navigate through to Authentication Settings, vRealm Management, and simply reorder the realms as required using the arrows at the bottom of the list. Let's shift training up to the top there, and then next time we go to the login page, there we go, we'll see that training is now at the top of the list. Another handy tip is to define the vRealm a person will log into via the URL. It's easy enough. You just put a /realm and then a /vRealm name at the end of the URL like this, and you'll see the vRealm drop-down list is hidden and all login attempts will automatically go through to that training realm. That's really useful if you want to send someone a link to log in and save them a little bit of time, or if you don't want users to trawl through a large list of realm names each time they connect, they can simply use this link as a favorite or a bookmark. You may also want to get rid of the vRealm drop-down list altogether and force users to manually type their realm name at the login page. There's several reasons why you may want to do that, such as privacy or security, so we'll show you how that works. Let's navigate through to Authentication Settings, Global vRealm Properties, and vRealm pull-down menu, and we'll simply turn that option off. Submit the change, log off, and there you go. The drop-down menu is gone and it's being replaced with a text field. Finally, you can use the Manage Access area to make changes to your vRealm. Navigate through to Manage Access, vRealms, select the realm and click Edit Realm Properties. Now you see there's an alternative place to add apps to a realm. You can also add apps to an automatic startup list, which means the app will open as soon as the user logs in. And you can configure an idle timer to log out users after a certain length of inactivity. If you go back to Manage Access vRealms and select the Get User list, you can also select a user and their general properties to give them admin privileges. You'll also need to move them into the admin membership group via the Services admin option. And last but not least, if you go back to Manage Access vRealms Get User list, you can view a user's current web top.